In previous video, we learned how to create basic to-do application UI. Now everything is working, everything is running, and we can continue writing tests for it. Let's go back to our editor. First, what we need to do, we need to install some dependencies. In this video, we're going to use Cypress.io as a testing framework and testing library /Cypress to use React testing library syntax. While installation is in progress, we can go to tsconfig and add some types, which we will need. We will need to resolve Cypress and testing library Cypress types. Now we need to go to package.json, and here in script section we need to add new script. We will say test open, and here we will say Cypress open, and now we can run it. And here we need to choose component testing. We're not gonna cover end-to-end testing this time. Here we say React, but not Webpack. We use Vite. It's complaining that we use Vite 4.0, but Cypress kinda works only with the third version, but we can skip it because it will also work, or you can downgrade your Vite to third version. But I don't recommend you to do that, so feel free to use version 4.0. We click skip, and here it will generate for us everything we need, almost everything. Here it's complaining that we use Vite, which is not recommended. Start component testing in Chrome. It opens Chrome for us. We don't have any tests yet. Create from component because we have, and the first component we want to test will be to-do list. It generates basic tests for us. We click OK. It's running. It's complaining that there is no query client, but we know about that. So we go to our editor. We need to open components, and then there will be to-do list.cy.tsx. And here we need to do some changes. So first, TypeScript is already complaining. Type does not exist. Let's fix that. In order to do that, we need to go to component.ts, and here we have this declaration, but our TypeScript knows nothing about it. So we need to connect this file to our TypeScript type reference. So we can do it here. In Vite env, we need add additional reference. That's it. This is for component, and maybe let's do the same for comments. Comments? Yes, comments. And now we have those two types connected as a type reference. And then if we will go back to our test, TypeScript should be happy, and it is happy. We can see the type here. Now we can update our test a little bit. I don't like that it puts kinda component as the name of the test. And here we will say, this one we don't need. We can say it should render, or maybe not render, let's be more human readable. It should display loading. Maybe not loading, it should display preloader, because for now it's loading text, but later it can be something else. So let's say it should display preloader while fetching data from API. And then we need to bring wrapper for our component, because inside of this component we fire a query, but we don't have query client declared here. So in order to do that, we need to go to our main TSX file, and we need to extract this query client to a separate component. We say const API data provider equals component just6 elements, and then we take the entire component from here, return here, and then we take client, move it inside. Also, what I want to do, I want to make it configurable, so we need to put children and config. And then whatever we put here will be rendered with query provider. Then here we need to say props with children, and our props will be query client config, query client config. And we need to go here, yeah, and we just put config here. And then we can use it here, API data provider. And also we need to extract it from here to a separate component. I'll put it for now here. And then we go back and move the actual component to our new file. Also, we need to export it to make it available. Export. Here we import it back. Now we can go to our test, API data provider, and wrap our to-do list. And then our testing environment happy, but it throws another issue because the mock server is not running, and it's okay. Let's go back to our editor. And here we need to say before each test, we need to enable our mock server. So let's go back to our mock server. Currently our mock server implemented as singleton, so we need to change that. We say const create mock server. It's a function, and then inside of this function we do everything as we did before, and then we return our mock server object to be available. Also we need to export this function. Now we need to go back to our main TSX file where we imported our mock server because things are changed. And now we say create mock server, and here if import.meta.env.dev, so if we are on dev environment, enable mock server, and this one we don't need because we extracted this component to different place. Now we can go to our test, and here we say before each test is running we need to create mock server. Also during test it would be nice if we will specify environment for mock server. Environment, it can be one of development or test. The difference is in test environment seeds won't run, so we will have separated seeds layers for testing and for development environment. And now we can go back to our test, and here we will say mock server with the environment test, and we also need to shut it down after each test, after each. Okay, brought me wrong import, we don't need that. And how to disable mock server, we need to store it somewhere. We'll mock server, and then we will assign it mock server. Now we can say mock server dot shutdown. TypeScript is complaining because the mock server type is any implicit type right now, so we can change that. We will declare new type saying type mock server, which is server from Mirage.js server, and server contains registry, and inside of registry we need to provide our models and our factories. Let's do that. Now we can connect this type to our function to make sure that if someone will rename this, it will be reflected here. So to do that we need to add return type, and now these two types connected. We also need to export this type to be available under our test, and here we just say mock server type, and TypeScript is happy, auto completion and all those things are started to work. And now we can go back to our browser and see, okay, something went wrong. Problem is that we have different port here and there, so we stop our Cypress configuration. We will go to our codegen and we need to hardcode port here 5000, and then we take the same port and go to it config, and we say server, here we say port 5000, and then we will always have the same port for all the environment. Let's rerun our Cypress environment. We go again to component testing. We already have our test, so let's run it. And everything is started to work. So we need to add some assertions to our test. So let's do it. We say it should display preloader while fetching data from API. Okay, so we did CY mount, and here we say AY.find by text, and we need to specify preloader text. So we go here. Let's improve things a little bit, saying const text. And now we will save all the text in our dictionary in loading, also for no data and error cases. Error, something went wrong, and we will say no data. Here we will say no data to have different texts for different errors. And now we will just use that reference here, loading, and then here error, or here say text, no data. We need to export this text from here to make it available under test. Let's go here and say text.loading, and should be visible. Then we can go to our environment and see. So the problem is that our TypeScript knows about Cypress methods, but our Cypress doesn't know about it. So we need to go to our components.ts file, and we need to connect our testing library. We need to stop and rerun our Cypress. By the way, def we don't need. As you see, everything is okay. So we can continue. Now we will add additional tests, which will test error case. It should Play error message where API is not available. To test it, what we need to do, we need to render our component again. So let's extract it to a function. Pause render to do list. Here we'll say cy.mount render to the list. So we can reuse it here and in our new test. Now we say cy.find by text error in our case. Let's go and check. This test should fail now, and it's failing because we see loading state. We need to imitate error case somehow. The simplest option will be just to disable mock server. So mock server dot shutdown. And then it still says it's loading. The problem is that our client retries queries, as you can see. So maybe while we're testing, we can say default options, queries, retry, false to prevent retrying. And then as you see, everything is okay. We see our error message and everyone is happy. Let's test our final happy path. It should render to do list with one item. Because we used test environment variable, our mock server is working, but seeds are not running. So there is no to-dos right now. We need to render again our application, but before we render it, we need to create at least one to-do in our mock database. We need to say mock server dot create to-do content, let's say finish testing, cy find by text, finish testing. Let's put it into a variable, post text, or maybe not text, but content to use short version. Let's add some spacing to reduce cognitive load. And now we go back and we don't see anything. Let's debug it. First thing to do is go to inspector. Let's restart the test. Okay, Mirage is throwing an error. Our application is posting to different ports still. So the thing is that we didn't run generation. npm run code again generate. We need to regenerate our client because we changed port here, but we didn't run regenerate function. So now we regenerate our code. We need to bring back our content and then finish testing. Everything is okay. The only thing which is missing here is styling. We need to go to our components.ts file and we need to add import our index CSS. Import index, no, not here. It's srcs index.css. Let's see if Cypress will pick it up like this. Yeah, it did. In this lesson, we learned how to test our application. With this knowledge, you will be able to create Mirage mock server together with GraphQL and TypeScript. We still didn't cover all the functionality of the application. Stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next video.